We are going to discuss Samir Amin and his theory of unequal distribution. Now, Samir Amin was an Egyptian French economist who called himself a creative Marxist. So, he worked on the lines of dependency theory, which is a Marxist theory, and also worked on the world system analysis, that is the core-periphery model. He said, in my view, this is for political rather than empirical reasons. So, we know a little about dependency theory now. We know what is core and periphery. So, we know that dependency theory fits with uneven development, and he worked on the same. He said that it is a radical theory which emphasizes on the international political economy. That means there is a role of polity in all the economic scenario. It is not purely economics, but there is a role of polity in it as well. Here are some of his works and contributions. We are going to focus on unequal development. Before that, we need to understand what is unequal exchange. So it was Arghiri Emmanuel who first developed the theory of unequal exchange, and Amin gave his own literature on this with imperialism and Marx's labor theory of value. So now we know that we are going to discuss a little bit of Marxism here and the value of labor. Now coming to the concept of this, what is this theory talking about? Mechanisms through which value flows from periphery to the core. Now, core is your capitalist countries and periphery are the developing or the underdeveloped ones. What happens is that there is a value related to labor and related to the means of production and the product that has been produced. We know that in developing or underdeveloped economies, the labor is cheap and an international go through and to or fro of the labor is required. Because the labor is so cheap, the big and the developed countries, they try to outsource labor and they take it from the non-developed countries. As a result, there is an uneven distribution of wealth according to different geographies. Now, this is against the neoclassical economics. Why? Because capitalism, it is a global system which is dependent on the polarization between the center and the periphery countries. So we know that there is a dependency. One is dependent for labor and the other is dependent that the produce that they are making, it has to be brought by the bigger countries. Monopoly capitalist extension to the periphery is to earn super profits. Okay, so they have this monopoly because they are getting cheap labor, they are producing goods at cheap rates and they are good in quality. So therefore they establish a monopoly and in return they earn super profits. Now there is an autocentric accumulation. Accumulation of what? Accumulation of wealth in the capitalist countries, production of capital, and accumulation in the peripheral countries that did not support this. Okay, that could not support. Because see, for example, if there is a periphery country and they have a lot of labor but they do not have the resources, what happens? The countries which are developed, they will take the labor from the underdeveloped countries and they will use them for division of labor and for producing things, and they will sell it and earn a lot of profit. So therefore there is an expanded reproduction of capital which the peripheral countries cannot do. Now there is this structure of exploitation of labor. What happens when the labor is so cheap and availability is so diverse and so vast? As a result, there is an exploitation of labor. So the first point in structure is uneven development, and exploitative structure leads to what? Unequal exchange. First of all, there will be an unequal exchange. For example, if one country is sending 20 laborers to another country at a value which is, for example, it is $1 per labor, but there will be an unequal exchange because for them the labor is very cheap and they are going to get a lot of money when the product is actually sold in the market. Also, they are going to work very hard. They are going to work harder than what they are being paid. So therefore the exchange is unequal. Polarization continues. That means the rich keeps on getting richer and the poor keeps on getting poorer. And inequalities increased. So this is the first point. Second point, these theories explain the factor price of non-equalization in the world economy. That means factor price is what? It is the remuneration given to the labor or other non-produced factors. Cheap labor, as a result, it attracts foreign investment because your product is being sold at a very low cost. So more and more foreign investment, more and more countries that are interested in buying your product, they will be investing. Amin's analysis of unequal exchange says that a unit of labor power is valued less in the periphery than in the core, because in the core countries they realize that this labor is worth something because he's going to work from me and I am going to earn. But the unit of labor, the same labor in the periphery country is less because there are no resources, there is no use of that labor. Whereas in the developed ones, there is a use of that labor. He will be used. He might as well be exploited in return of what? Earning super profits. Now, coming to the conclusion, Amin said a very nice line that underdevelopment is not a lack of development, but the reverse side of development. It is not that there is a lacking in some countries, that is why they are not developed, but development is actually totally the reverse side, because one country is getting richer and the other one is getting poorer. Even after having the labor, they are not getting the desired results because they lack in resources, they lack in planning, they lack in technology. And there is an exploitation of countries. The rich countries exploit the poorer countries for labor and also for resources in turn of profit. Global economy favors continued enrichment of rich countries. That means if an economy that is already established, the global economy continues it. How? By investing. If there is a lot of foreign investment in one country, it continues to become more enriched. Why? Because the whole economy, the global economy is favoring it. And the poor countries have to pay the expense. The countries, the developed and rich countries, they are enjoying their status because someone else is paying the price for them, and that is the poor countries. For example, even when a poor country is sending its labor and its resources, for example, it is exporting something that is local in that country to another country, and that country is paying very cheaply to the labor and is enjoying profits by selling the produce, the country which was poor, the underdeveloped country, is paying the expense because they are not earning anything. They are earning only what the labor is getting, and that is nothing as compared to what the developed country is getting. So, there was one criticism about this, that the role of social conflicts is ignored in development. There is a lot of social conflicts that also take place among the countries, and that is ignored when we talk about development because only the economic perspective is considered. Because economics focuses on management of capitalist expansion and the theories of the same. When we talk about economics, we'll only focus on the capitalist expansion, how they are expanding, what they are doing, what strategies and what theoretical framework is there. Capitalist expansion starts from one region but expands at a global rate because the whole global economy becomes a part of it. Now, here are some of the phases. First is the mercantilist, competitive, and current stage, which was given by Samir Amin, who has talked about how capitalism expanded, what happened, and what were the consequences. And today, the current stage, the last stage, talks about today's situation where there is a monopoly of capitalism and it helps in profits from declining, it keeps increasing the profits, and the reason behind the driving force here is unequal exchange. Only because there is unequal exchange that there is still polarization. Now let us discuss some questions. Question number 1. Unequal exchange is the formulation of, this is a very important question and has been asked in the exams before. The answer will be A, Samir Amin. Question number 2 is, which of these is not among the ways of exploitation of labor according to Amin? So if you look at option number C, the power of labor valued more in periphery. So this is wrong. The power of labor is valued more in core countries. Only that is why they earn so much profit from cheap labor by paying them in very petty amounts and getting a lot of profits from the produce and surplus. I hope you got the lecture. Thank you for watching.